welcome on this nice summer day. Hopefully you guys in your business ventures are finding time to enjoy the summer, not just work through the summer. My name is Becky and I'm with Neo LunchNet. I want to welcome you this morning to FEBE. We're really glad to have you here today. I hope you got some time to get some coffee and tea from our great sponsor, Dunkin' Donuts. As always, we encourage you to stop over there. They're right across the street from the college on Abbey Road, or they're over in Cam's Corners, or they're over in Amherst. And if you're over that way, stop in, grab a cup of coffee or tea, and thank them, because they have been a faithful sponsor of this for, I think, over 3 years. So we have lots of announcements that we'll give at the end of the meeting in case some stragglers come in. We have some exciting news, lots of things going on, but we're really pleased to have Lorain Smith from ECDI with us today, and she has agreed to come in and talk to you about market research, correct? Mm-hmm. So take it away.
All right. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Everybody? Okay, so first of all, I commend you for coming in when you saw market research on your email, because a lot of people think market research, that sounds really boring, but it's actually my secret weapon in what I do with my clients. So I work for ECDI. What we are is a nonprofit organization. Primarily, we do lending, but we also do a lot of coaching and training programs. And this is one of the specialties of mine, which is market research. And it's surprisingly accessible, it's surprisingly interesting, and it's surprisingly valuable for you as entrepreneurs and for clients that you may work with. So I'm gonna let you in on some of my secret weapon information today. Okay, so the basics. What is market research? It's defined as any organized effort to gather information about your target markets and customers. Very, very broad. So a key element of business strategy, large and small, and like I said, it's a true secret weapon for me and my clients. So this is not to be confused with marketing, which is any method for reaching your customers. This is what you do before you attempt any marketing methods. Or marketing research, which is essentially what types of marketing methods will reach my clients the best. But if you don't know where your clients are, you don't know about your competitors, you don't know about your benchmarks, or you don't know about your industry, how the heck can you market to them? How the heck are you supposed to brand? How are you supposed to price? How are you supposed to know where you should locate your business and what market you should be targeting? So, over the years, I've divided market research, the big, big beast, into 3 pieces. So they are, research category number 1 is industry. So that is, what is the field in which you are operating, all of the trends, all of the historical numbers, all of the looking forward numbers, how many businesses are operating, how many people are employed. So it says, here's a snapshot, a broad snapshot of my industry so that I can get a bearing on where I'm playing my game at, right? The next category is competitors and benchmarks. So this is, competitors is everyone you are directly up against. So if I am a donut shop, for example, holler to Dunkin' Donuts. If I'm a donut shop, my competitors would be other donut shops in the area that customers would choose over my donut shop. Benchmarks, however, are donut shops in California. They're not competitors to me, but they're valuable because I can learn from them and their techniques. And I'll talk a little bit more about this in a few minutes. And finally, the last research category is market demographics. It is all of the characteristics and traits that define your customers, that make them unique and give you your niche market, which you've probably heard a lot through your careers. So those are the 3 research categories that I work in with my clients to break down, like I said, the large, large beast of market research into a few bite-sized categories. So let's just talk about each of these categories a little bit more and the purpose that they can accomplish for you or your clients. Industry research. Some of the things we can find out using some of the tools I use, which, by the way, are mostly free, are how much revenue does the industry generate annually? How many businesses and jobs are there in total? And this is for the country. What are the current growth rates, the current trends? Who are the key buyers in this industry? What are the economic indicators in this industry? Who are the suppliers, and what are some of the keys to success? They also talk about the market and product segments of this industry. So how is the donut shop broken down by product, right? So those are just some of the things you can learn from industry research. So you're probably already seeing how valuable this type of investigation can be. The next piece is competitor and benchmark analysis. Very important. If you don't know who you're competing with, how are you supposed to compete? So I have a lot of clients come to me and say, I didn't mention competitors in my business plan because I don't have any. And my answer is, yes, you do. Either yes, you do, or there's a reason no one is in this business in this area. So it's something worth looking into. So like I said, competitors are on the local scale. They are competing with you directly. So it helps you figure out on what basis can I compete? What makes me better, unique, or different? How do your sales and projections compare to competitors, how they've been doing historically? And finally, how do your expenses and cost projections compare to competitors? Then when we look at benchmarks, I said California, but someone in Columbus could probably be a benchmark, especially if they're a donut shop, right? So this helps us figure out what are they doing right and how can I learn from their best practices. A lot of businesses learn lessons the hard way, and you can learn a lot about them through some of the techniques I'm going to show you. And finally, our last category is our market demographics. What we're trying to determine is who is my customer? What is the ideal location for my business if A, you haven't located yet or you're looking to expand? How much does your customer spend on this type of product or service, which you can, believe it or not, actually find out? And how much market share can you expect to gain? All of this information is really useful and valuable at companies like mine where we're giving you a loan. If you can't establish this type of information, you're missing out on wonderful opportunities of information and research and learning about what you're doing so that you'll be more successful in the long run. Okay, so unfortunately, due to time constraints, I will only be talking about one of these categories this morning. Instead of a really broad cursory version of this presentation, I wanted to dig into one of the ones I think is most important. Usually this is a couple-hour presentation, so I had to consolidate a little bit. So what we'll be talking about is competitors and benchmarks, how to find them, and what you can learn from them. Okay, so how can I scope out the competition? I I work in threes. I broke it down into 3 different ways, right? The first is, whoopsie daisy. The first is check out their website. Some of this is very elementary, and you just have to take a step back and say, okay, what's the basics? Check out their website. So this will reveal a snapshot of the business, including how they price, hopefully if their prices are listed on their website, any press attention they've received and why, who their management team is and their expertise and experience, and their social media participation, which is, of course, increasingly important. Meta tags, which I won't go too far into, consult an IT firm if you want to learn more about meta tags, and testimonials, so examples of what this company is doing really well. And if they have testimonials, hopefully they'll put them on their website. The second way you can look into your competition, and I'll dig into each of these more over the next 20 minutes or so. The second one is to check out review websites. So of course this has to be taken with a grain of salt, but in a broad sense, you can get an idea of what you're up against, right? So although web reviews, again, must be taken with a grain of salt, they will offer insight into the customer market perspective on the competition. They sound off about what the business is doing well and what you can improve on. One thing that you may have already noticed about review websites is that people are much more passionate about expressing negative opinions than they are about expressing positive opinions. And as an entrepreneur or as a consultant to entrepreneurs, you can benefit from this information because these review websites have all of the bad things this company is doing, not the good, maybe it's a great company, but people are much more vocal about what's gone wrong So you can look at these review websites and say, okay, people think it's too small. Okay, people think the service is bad. Okay, people think the prices are too high. And it's such a simple way of getting that competitive edge. And finally, there's the deep dive, which is usually what people come to me to do. It's a little bit of a learning curve. So I know someone came a little while ago and talked about census data. There are other research tools like Reference USA, which I'm going to talk about, and Demographics Now, both of which are tools I use at ECDI, to find out competitors within a given radius, to find out their sales volume, their square footage, their employee size range, their credit score, and a report on their competitors to help you find your market. So you may be surprised how much information is available about your businesses on these websites. Really, really valuable, interesting, applicable information that will help you succeed in business. Okay, so I'm going to talk about each of these methods a little bit more in depth. So the first method I said was to check out their website. So I like to use food examples. We can all relate to retail examples and food examples, of course. So I'm talking about a fictional bakery. All of this information is true. I'm just using fictional names and fictional websites to protect their identities. So the example website, Bakery 216, and their Facebook page is where this information came from. So as a competing bakery, I can first find out how are they pricing their products. Maybe I've worked in a bakery, but it was across the country, and I don't really know where to price my products. You should generally price based on your cost and then a markup. But this is another way to say, this is what people are willing to pay for baked goods in Northeast Ohio. So I was able to find out the price of cookies, the price of mini pastries. So what can we use this information for? It can help me price my products. And it can also tell me what the market will bear in terms of costs of baked goods in a certain area. Maybe I'm just looking at Elyria. This is the price for baked goods in Elyria. It may be totally different in Shaker Heights, but that's why it's valuable to find out the pricing. A couple other things that I found on this actual real website. They were awarded the Yelp 2015 Best Ethnic Bakery. So one thing I could learn from this as an aspiring baker would be that they've got the ethnic bakery market cornered. Maybe that's not my niche. Maybe I don't want to compete against the best ethnic bakery in Cleveland right now. So it helps you sort of figure out maybe where not to take your business, because there's so many other directions to take a bakery. They were also, a testimonial on their website said, amazing food and the best cannoli I have ever had. So we can assume it's an Italian-style bakery. Again, I can say, all right, they've got the Italian-style bakery, best ethnic bakery in Cleveland. Where do I fit in, right? Social media use, they are only on Facebook. So some people hear social media and they think, okay, I have to be on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and Pinterest and Snapchat. It's exhausting, but you don't necessarily have to be on all of these things. This is the best Italian bakery in Cleveland, and they're only using Facebook. So it totally depends on the type of business you're in, which social media will benefit you. For visual businesses like this, Instagram works well because people eat food with their eyes, and Facebook works well because some people just default to Facebook. Forget Yellow Pages, forget Googling, they just go to Facebook, right? And then finally, I can determine a little bit about their location strategy. Without telling you where this actually is, I was able to find out that the average household income in this area is $48,000. So I can say, okay, people with this average income will pay this much for baked goods. Figure out what is the income in the area I want to locate, and how can I adjust my pricing to secure and capture those customers. Okay? All right, the next thing we're going to look at is review sites. So like I said, grain of salt, but still on a cursory level, really valuable snapshots and information that you can get on a competitor. So the overall impression is 4 out of 5 stars on Yelp, and a decent amount of reviews, 173 reviews, and this was about a year ago when I looked. So I learned that they are not offering any Yelp deals. Maybe it means they don't need to. Maybe it means they don't know about Yelp deals. I learned that the owners do not respond to negative reviews. And what that tells me is that the owners do have less emphasis on customer satisfaction. If you work, the more you work with Yelp, the more you'll see that really good owners, really invested owners, see a negative Yelp review and say, I'm so sorry you had a negative experience at my shop. Come talk to me and we'll make things right, especially with larger ticket purchases. Maybe they'll throw you a donut, maybe they'll throw you a muffin or something. But it didn't look like these owners placed an emphasis on trying to smooth out these negative experiences with their customers. So I've already learned a few things about opening my own bakery. I've learned that I shouldn't go into the Italian bakery business because I know I have a direct, intense, established competitor. I've learned a little bit about pricing. I've learned a little bit about location there on the east side. And I've learned that they're not placing the appropriate emphasis on customer satisfaction, or at least not as much as they could. So some of the positives I gleaned from Yelp was that good food, obviously, best ethnic bakery. The negatives, poor service. So I not only learned that from seeing that they didn't respond to negative reviews, but I learned that because people straight up said poor service. So here is more clarity on my niche in the market. Good food with astounding customer service, right? And someone also said not enough seating. I'm learning more and more all the time by doing some market research. So how can we use this information? Like I said, we're learning about where we fit into this competitive market here. We're learning about what the market will bear in terms of cost of baked goods. We're learning about who the established businesses are and what they do really well, so I can figure out, again, where do I fit into this puzzle as a brand new bakery in the area. Okay. The last method for market research in competitor and benchmarking is a deep dive. So the resource I use is Reference USA. I'll take you through one example of that program in a minute, but does anyone know where you can access Reference USA? Yes? The library. Free. Our library website's clevenet.org, and you'll just click on Research Databases, and they'll have you type in the library card number, and they'll have you establish a PIN, and you can use all of the availability of Reference USA for free as Clevelanders. So one thing that I learned about using Reference USA about bakeries is that there are technically 31 baked good retailers within 5 miles of my desired business location, but there are only 3 within 1 mile, right? Below is just some of the competitor data we can obtain using Reference USA. So I looked at my closest competitor, one of these 3 within 1 mile, to say, again, what are they doing well? What are they doing poorly? And how can I be unique, better, or different? So I learned that their annual sales volume is about 290,000. I learned that their square footage is medium size, 2,500 to 9,099 square feet. I learned that they have 7 employees. And I learned that their credit rating is B+. That doesn't really apply as much to me. And then you can learn their estimated annual expenses. For a lot of my clients that are just starting to crawl towards starting a business, figuring out what to spend on what is one of their challenges. And this is just a quick snapshot example of what you can be looking at once you're a $290,000 sales volume business with 7 employees, winning Best Ethnic Bakery of the Year. So accounting, $1,000 to $2,500, contract labor and legal, less than $1,000. Payroll and benefits, you'll generally see, are the most significant expense for any business. For their 7 employees and probably ownership in some capacity. Rent and leasing, again, Eastside Bakery, $10,000. Telecommunications, $2,000. Advertising, $5,000 after being established for a little while. And finally, management and administrative expenses, miscellaneous office expenses, $2,500. So now, I'm going to talk really quickly about benchmarks, and then I'll take you through a quick Reference USA example. Time flies. All right, so what is a benchmark? Like I said, a standard of excellence or achievement against which others can be measured or judged. You don't need to see a Columbus bakery as a competitor. You can see a Columbus bakery as a learning tool. This is the opportunity to use research tools to learn about successful businesses and successful business models in your industry whose business model can be successfully replicated. What are they doing well, and how can I do it too up here in Northeast Ohio? How are they pricing their products or services? What type of neighborhood are they located in? What is the average household income in that area? What is the lot size or the square footage of the business? And finally, how many employees do they have? The same information you can research on competitors can be researched on benchmark companies anywhere in the country to determine how to do business as well as possible. Typically, benchmarks are not direct competitors. Consider benchmarking to be a proven recipe for success. Oh, could have taken you a little closer there. All right, so I'm just going to really quickly take you through an example using Reference USA, just so you can see how it works. It's not the most user-friendly, just because there's so much information inside. I would just take a look at some tutorials on YouTube, just to familiarize yourself with the tools and everything that you can do, and focus on what's valuable to you as a consultant or as an entrepreneur. So once you log in, I'm using an alumni account, but once you log into CleveNet's database of Reference USA, it'll look a lot like this. I'm just gonna go down here and click on US businesses. So there are two ways you can search using Reference USA. You can do a quick search using a business name you already know and just look at businesses individually, specifically, one by one, say, I just want to know what Toys R Us in Elyria makes. I just want to know what this bakery in Cleveland Heights makes. And you can look this way. Usually, you don't necessarily know who your specific competitors are, and that's why you're doing market research. So I just clicked on this other tab here that says Advanced Search. And as you can see on the left-hand side, they give you so many different methods of narrowing down your search to make it applicable to you. So what I usually do is I use keyword or industry and geography. I'm just trying to find my immediate competitors within a certain geographical radius. So keyword, I'm gonna stick with the bakery example just to not press you too hard. Search all SIC codes or primary SIC. So some people call it SIC codes, some people call it SIC codes. They're all separately pronounced, but all it is the classified industry this business operates in. If you're searching all SIC codes, I may be getting Kmart because Kmart sells baked goods, right? But if I click primary SIC codes only, I'm going to get businesses whose primary operation is baked goods. So I'm just gonna click on, I hit search primary SIC only. I'm just gonna type in bakery, hit search. And so not only do you get a lot of options, bakeries, but you also learn what the codes are, so that whatever additional research you do, including using the census websites, you know what code you're actually working with. So I'm going to look at deli/bakeries. So I just clicked on that, and now it's in my selected category. All I want to do now is make sure that I'm not getting delis and bakeries across the country. I'm just getting delis and bakeries in this area. So you can do city or state, metro area, zip codes, radius, county, street address, neighborhood. So there's lots of ways to do it. I like to do radius because it gives you an idea of how far people will travel to get to a specific business. So you can enter the house number and street name or zip code. I don't have it. Does anyone know the address of this building or this area?
51 Innovation.
Zip code?
44035.
44035. Thank you. All right, so I've got my radius address, and I want to find bakeries within, let's just say 5 miles. So over here, up in the right-hand corner, you can hit update count to see how many records we have. We have none. So we're going to expand our radius for deli/bakeries. I hit 10 miles now. Update count. All right, this isn't looking good. Not a lot of bakeries over here. So I've got 30 miles now, just for the sake of, all right, we got one. All right. So anyone open a deli bakery right here? Think you've got a market? Yes. Well, obviously Dunkin' Donuts. Obviously Dunkin' Donuts. What's that? So it would be under bagels. It would be under bagels or donuts. So this is looking at deli sandwiches, I think, more so than anything. And we clicked primary SIC code, which Dunkin' would show probably if I hit all SIC codes. But because deli bakery is not their primary, we're getting other results. So I'm just going to click view results. So usually what you'll get is a long list of businesses here so that you can research all of them and do your due diligence. But right now we're just going to look at Pick Quick Deli in North Royalton. So I clicked on the company name and it gives me a basic business snapshot. It gives me the address, the metro area, the phone number. As I scroll down, it tells me what SIC code they operate under. Here, it's Deli Bakery. Secondary is a convenience store. I scroll down and I get some of the good information I showed you earlier for my competitor bakery on the east side. So we have 2 employees, 17 years in the database. That's not necessarily the amount of time in business. It just means the amount of time they've been here. Then we have the location sales volume, 103,000. Single location, which means it's not a chain. Square footage, 1,500 to 2,500, so smallish, right? And then we scroll all the way down to business expenditures, and we can get a basic snapshot. If I want to open a deli/bakery, sandwiches, ideally, I can get an idea of approximately what they spend annually on their wide variety of expenses. And then finally, one of the last things that I'm just going to show you in this very, very, very basic tutorial. This program has so many capabilities. Again, YouTube, Reference USA tutorials, is go to the very, very bottom, and it says competitors report. We may not get any because it doesn't sound like there's a lot of delis around here, but usually when you hit expand, yay, you'll get a competitor. So we got a cupcake shop in Detroit, Michigan. So no delis in the area. Someone please open a deli. And then this is an opportunity to look into my competitors. And you can just get lost in a tunnel of Reference USA research. So that's just, again, super, super quick tutorial. Doesn't do the program justice whatsoever. But I'm going to move forward then. So conclusion, or actually, so once you have all this raw data, you just saw a bunch of raw data. It's just a bunch of numbers on the page. Once I have all this raw data, what do I do with it? So market research is often used for 2 primary purposes. Operational use for you, the business owner, or your client, the business owner, or as justification to beef up a business plan. So operational use, that is for the owner's edification, to cater and market effectively to the known market, to price and to brand accordingly, to be aware of the competition, how they differ, where they are, and to know where the industry is headed and how to stay ahead of the learning curve. And again, this overview includes our demographic and our industry research as well. Informal format. This information is for you to apply marketing techniques, customer service strategies like we saw in desperate need for bakeries on the east side, generate revenue streams, and gain competitive advantage and market share. Formal formatting, it says, is required, but it is not required when it's just for the owner's use, of course. Heck, you can even have your market research scattered around your office on sticky notes. Then we have our alternative method for using market research data is justification to beef up a business plan, which is, of course, much more formal. It's what we would look for at ECDI in your market analysis. So that is to qualify a business plan in justifying intelligent and carefully planned use and payback of loan funds, showing that you did your due diligence, showing that you did your research and your homework. This gives a lending officer faith in the owner's ability to generate positive cash flows and pay back the loan. So in the formal format, market research is used to help acquire startup funding. It must be thorough, sensible, and planted on solid ground. It's almost like you're developing a legal case. Make a point about your market, the industry, or competitors, and then use your hard-earned research to back it up. And then this is just an applied example. So again, you didn't get the industry analysis snapshot or the demographic snapshot, but this is the information that you can get. An industry analysis begins with the baked goods industry currently enjoys annual revenue of $39 billion and is expecting a positive 0.6% growth rate over the next 5 years due to a continually recovering economy, stabilized ingredients costs, decreased wheat prices, and merger and acquisition activity. So again, this information came to us in raw data using some of the tools and databases I apply. And then this is how you can format it. It's just an example of how you could format it attractively for a loan officer. A competitive analysis can begin with, there is a clear market need for retail and commercial bakeries in the proposed location where there are only 3 retailers within a 1-mile radius. Customer reviews reflect dissatisfaction in the areas of customer service and space where there is clear room for improvement on our end, right? And finally, a customer market analysis can begin with consumers in the proposed geographic market spend over $200 annually on mixed baked goods per household. This is in a market where there are over 500,000 total households. And remember, the average income was $48,000. So much information to be uncovered. Okay. Simple, basic conclusion, which is, if in doubt, Google it, which I actually do tell my clients. It sounds too easy, right? But you might be surprised at the valuable information a simple Google search can yield, specifically in terms of articles and reports that have been published. So be critical. The best sources tend to end in .gov for government, .edu for education, or .org for nonprofits generally, or are written by a major reliable publication, Wall Street Journal, Harvard Business Review, etc. And that's that. So that's the just ever so brief overview of market research and specifically competitor and benchmark research. And if you want to meet with me, I'm happy to explain any of these concepts further in depth. So if anyone has any questions, I think they can come around with a microphone.
Good morning, Lauren.
Good morning.
I'm taking a little bit different tact. I'm doing my own beta testing, and I was wondering if you could speak to that briefly, because I'm in a market that I don't think really has much in the way of competition at all right now. It's a bit of a unique sort of niche market, so I was wondering if you could speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, so a lot of times when clients don't have clear industry or competitors that they can investigate, it comes to sort of a hands-on customer, establishing your hands-on customer market, and beta testing is just an example of a very interactive testing-based method. So that's sort of product and concept validation. It's saying, I have this idea, this concept, it's sort of fresh and new, and so there's not a whole lot of people already doing it. So I need to go directly to the customer and see what they say about it, right? It's essentially beta testing for more tech-based industries. Other examples of more hands-on beta testing would be to stand on the street with your pretzel nubbins and say, do you like my pretzel nubbins? You can also be members of networking groups like this one and just have conversations with people. Are you looking for a deli in the Elyria area? I think there's a need for that, but I don't know if any of you are interested in a deli. So that's essentially just more of a hands-on, interactive, customer-facing research. What I showed you is sort of behind-the-scenes research. So he's doing more hands-on. Yes?
Just a quick follow-up to that. What I've been doing prior to this actual beta test is just interviewing, or not interviewing, but just having conversations with patrons at bars, restaurants, that sort of thing, and getting sort of anecdotal feedback. If that's documented, does that have value or weight if you're going before investors and speaking with people like that?
Yeah, so I guess it depends on the investor. If I were looking at a business plan and I had one person who said, I did no research whatsoever, I had another who did all this behind the scenes research, and I had another who did on the street, man in the street, interviewing, question asking types of research, the two who did research are obviously going to stand high above the third. I consider that just as valuable, if not more valuable, than this sort of librarian type of research that I like to do, because you're actually getting real people's opinions. This is historical data, but that's so valuable. And if anyone can do that kind of research, it's just as, if not more, valuable. Thank you for that. Good point. Questions?
Lorain, what kind of services does ECI offer? Are they individual classes? Are they group classes? Are they free? Are they some paid, charged for? What kind of breadth of, business services do you guys provide?
Sure. Thank you for your question, Chris. So we sort of offer services in 3 pieces. The first is one-on-one coaching. That's when you'll sit with me and we will look at your business plan, we will look at your marketing, we will look at your financials, we will look at your strategy. We will work on your market research. So that's covered by a membership fee, $25 lifetime membership fee. So we really dig into your pockets for coaching services at ECDI. The next piece is training. Training is group training. I also offer that, so you would get very sick of me if you came to ECDI. Larger groups, 15 or so people, is usually what we like to keep it at. So those sort of vary. We also have networking sessions through our Women's Business Center. And this young lady in the striped shirt works there, so you can ask her if you have any questions. And then finally, we have our lending piece. Business plan. If you've been in business for a while, you can go straight on to lending and trying to secure a loan. If you're a brand new business, you have to go through some of my training first to sort of get you into the business management mindset. A lot of our clients are experts at what they do, but may not know how to run a business. It just is what it is. So we offer some training programs and coaching to help you develop your business acumen before seeking a loan. Thank you. Other questions?
You mentioned earlier about demographics now.
Mm-hmm.
Does that differ from the Reference USA?
Yeah, so Demographics Now and Reference USA do some of the identical things. What I showed you Reference USA does, Demographics Now does the exact same thing. Demographics Now also does much more in-depth customer research. So it can tell you, let's see, it can tell you all of the demographic data, the income, the gender, the race, the familial status, the neighborhood. It can also tell you how much people spend on different types of products. It can actually get very, very specific. So I have a client who is trying to bring a doll to market, a children's doll. And I was able to use Demographics Now to show her where the hot spots are for her market. Little girls with a certain familial status and a certain family income. And they're all over the country, Chicago and Denver and Texas. So I'd be happy to talk to you more about Demographics Now. It's another thing, big learning curve. I would look at a YouTube tutorial, and if you still have questions, you can meet with me and I'll walk you through it.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Yeah, I've used Reference USA. I was wondering how they come up with those numbers for income. It's the big difference between 500,000 and a million. So how accurate are those, and where do they get those numbers? How do you base the realistic legitimacy of what that number is?
Yeah, so he asked, using Reference USA, how heavily can you rely on the sales volume that they project for these individual businesses? And I wouldn't bet your house on it, but it's valuable information in that. I recently actually talked to a Reference USA representative on the phone, and it's a combination of tax filings and census data. So it's pretty good, but some of it is estimates, which you can see. So it's valuable, but it shouldn't be the be-all, end-all of your business, like any research. Other questions? A couple?
On Reference USA again, I used that once and to get some phone numbers for some businesses to call, and about 20% of them were no longer in service. So I was wondering how often that's updated and how accurate that is.
Yeah, I think it's updated annually. It's supposed to be updated annually. Yeah, I've had that happen before. If people aren't updating their records with census and tax filings and everything like that, they're going to lag behind. That is another thing about Reference USA. If you're looking for a long list of targets, for example, you're trying to cold call a bunch of targets, maybe as a supplier or a business partner, they'll give you phone numbers, but you'll have to go through that list of phone numbers. I've given my clients lists of 300 businesses, and they just go through and call them, or you can pay a little extra for an email upgrade. Chris?
I think your example you went through today said it was last updated July 2016.
July 2016?
There was a spot on there that said when it was last updated.
Okay, so some are pretty up to date, others, I guess, a little outdated. Sir?
Is there information available, or do you specifically use information on failed businesses where you can look at basically what they did wrong to avoid those same
So-
mistakes?
That would be really helpful, I'd imagine, but my issue is that I don't know how to find those failed businesses. These databases, unlike in some situations, I can rely on them as being relatively current. Yes?
I thought that I saw on that list you were going through that it did mention a category closed.
Really? All right. Well, that's one I haven't explored. That could be really valuable, yeah. Unfortunately, with businesses like that, you probably won't be able to look at their website and their pricing, and some of that information may just be outdated enough that it's not accurate anymore. But that's a great point, yeah. If you can find that information, finding failed businesses and why they failed would be great. Any other questions? Yes?
Opinion on Manta, if they have sales and MANTA, when you type the business in, sales, owner, phone number.
Yeah, I don't love it.
Okay.
He asked about Manta, which when you type in business names, sometimes they'll give you a Manta result. I don't think it's very reliable. Also, I like things that are through the library because I feel like they have a certain amount of accountability, whereas some of these websites that just sort of spit web information out at you, I don't find them very reliable. But, I mean, you never know. Other questions? No? All right. Thank you so much.